Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your latest Leeds United news and transfer news. And boy, we have got an update today. Leeds United, according to Simon Jones of the Daily Mail, have bidded £20 million plus add-ons for Shea Charles. Wow. Now, of course, the Daily Mail sometimes get an idea that sometimes you might be wrong. Sometimes people go, they're not tier one. What I will say with this Shay Charles thing is, Simon Jones was the exact same journalist who said Leeds United were considering a bid a few days ago. Then Graham Smith confirmed that story. And here we are now with Simon Jones telling us that Leeds United have submitted that bid. So I think, unlike normally where we go to the Daily Mail, I'm not so sure. I think you can be pretty sure with this particular deal that Leeds United have indeed submitted a £20 million plus add-ons bid for Shea Charles. So exciting, so exciting. Before we get into that though, as well, if you could help the channel obviously by dropping a like, subscribe. Yesterday's video has done unbelievable well, so thank you guys for all the support. And if you could help the channel as well, we're getting closer now to 2,800 subscribers, so we're only about, what, 52 away. So if you could help me in that goal as well, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you like the video, subscribe, like, all that good stuff does massively help me. I'm Harry says, hello, this is Leeds fan 2003. Okay, mate. I like to make new accounts every now and then. It feels fresh and get excited now. Wilson, I saw had been spotted at LBA. Doubt it, though. I have seen that on Twitter, mate. I have seen that. We can talk a bit about that, actually. It is in my notes. Dat says, evening, Scott. Nice to see you in the chat. Rory says, evening as well. Day says, hey up, Scott. All Leeds out way. March on together. Oasis. Oasis forever. Fair enough. Gipton White says, evening, Scott as well. And Rory says, Sunderland will hijack it. Mate, let's keep it quiet, shall we? Simon Jones, if you can block every single Sunderland fan and every single Sunderland account who could be possibly linked to this deal, that will be absolutely fantastic to stop it going through. But truthfully, we're here to talk about Shea Charles fundamentally. And where am I on this deal? Well, when this story broke a few days ago, I've got to be honest with a lot of you people. I was thinking in the top of my head, this isn't kind of priority in terms of, I think you look through our 11 at this moment in time and you go, we need another number 9 to help us out. We need a number 10. We need a winger. We need a left back. We need a centre back. We need a goalkeeper. So if that's all the case and we need them positions, why are we going for a midfielder? But then you hear the stories coming out recently about being able to potentially get Brandt on the free. There's reports today about Harry Wilson as well that we know about, and obviously we've heard about, and we know apparently according to the Football Insider, Leeds United are tracking Harry Wilson's services now and have offered a bid on the table or a sort of wage packet for a significantly long contract to Harry Wilson as well. But if you get one of them, then obviously someone like a Shea Charles at the price point, I think becomes achievable. So for me, as I said, when I look at Shea Charles, my opinion on it is quite simple, really. I like the player, 22 years old, 6'2". The only thing is, as I said, if we are going to do it, some midfielders are going to have to move on. This is not a player, in my opinion, that is going to come in and sort of sit on the bench. I think when you're paying that sort of money, you would expect him to be in and around the starting 11. And when you look at the position he plays, you've got Stack that can play that position, who we bought last summer. You've got Longstaff, you've got Ampadu, who definitely will not be dropped. All playing that position. Gruev plays that position as well. So you've essentially got 4 midfielders all playing that position. You could even throw Tanaka in there as well, and 5. So I think, in my opinion, if Shea Charles doesn't come into the football club, I would expect a sale in that position, and I would hope a sale does happen in that position, because what you don't want to do is have too many players in one particular position. Obviously, it's nice to have a bulky squad, goes without saying. We want to have as many options as possible. But you do end up in a position where if you've got too many players in one position, you end up with a Perot situation this year, or even a Nonto situation this year, where they're just not getting any minutes in the team and they're smashing down their value, and you struggle to sell them. So that's something we've got to look at with this. In terms of, I think the deal will happen, though, I do think Shea Charles will now sign for Leeds United. I know Alfie House, of course, who works for the Echo, I think he works for the Southampton Echo, said Shea Charles negotiations still early stages, but not expecting Saints to do a deal around 20 million. Is the Leeds United reported bid according to Simon Jones. They value him higher than that. So although that's the case, I do expect that Leeds United do get this deal done. I think when you look at a lot of these deals, if you start putting bids in, I think that's when deals become really likely, because at that point, you've done all your background checks, you know you like the player, you know you want the player, you've probably talked to Southampton to see whereabouts they're going to be in terms of transfer value and where sort of could be the case to go in at the transfer point. And I think when you start putting bids in, unless he gets hijacked by someone else, and we know other clubs have been interested in Shea Charles, even when you look at likes of Manchester United who've took an interest this summer, you would expect that this deal is close to getting done, if I'm being honest. And as I said, he's still a 4 out of 10 on the signing scale, but I think you're talking now, percentage-wise for him signing the club, I think we're near 90% chance now that Shea Charles is a Leeds United player, which is very, very exciting. And one thing as well with Southampton, I think a lot of you saw this last season, but of course, last summer they saw Matheus Fernandes and Tyler Diblin. And at the start of the transfer window, they were very much like, this is the price point we're going for. I think they wanted about, was it 50 million for Matheus Fernandes? And they wanted about 50 million for Diblin. They didn't get either of them fees. It got brought down, and they essentially put themselves too high. And what ended up actually happening then was they had to go back to the negotiation table on the defensive and say to Everton, and obviously West Ham at that moment in time, look, we can do a deal with you guys. We'll drop our valuation. And I think Leeds United will be prepared to walk away from this deal if it does get too high. I think too high is probably 25 plus add-ons, to be honest. I think between 20 and 25, he's probably about fair. He's 22 years old. He's getting better every year. He's been through the City Academy. You think he's probably about ready for a Premier League move now, in my opinion. But it's just a case of making sure we don't overpay for this deal as well. When do you think more will come out regarding Brandt and Wilson? Well, according to a few accounts on Twitter, if you want to believe them, I think Football Guru said it, I think a few others have said it, they're suggesting that actually Harry Wilson was spotted at Leeds Bradford Airport today. Now, how much truth in that, I don't know. They said that they think they have. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I do think, though, if I'm honest, like I saw some guy on Twitter talk about sort of Julian Brandt and say, well, maybe because we're signing Shea Charles, that's Julian Brandt off the table. I actually couldn't disagree more with that. I think that's nonsense as far as I'm aware. In fact, I'd go even further and say it's nonsense. And I would actually argue that Leeds United, if they sign Shea Charles, I think that gives us a higher chance of signing Julian Brandt as well. Because I don't think we'd have the money in terms of what we've got to do this summer. By getting, I don't think we have the money to basically sign Shea Charles and the number 10. I think obviously the number 10 is the priority. So I think we only could get someone like Shea Charles and put that money down for Shea Charles if we are going to go cheaper in other areas. And obviously cheaper would be the likes of Julian Brandt, who is of course a free signing. So yeah, I think the likely is they'll probably both come in. I think at this moment, you're probably talking the top 3 are quite likely. Krejci, I think, is relatively likely as well, because I do think Strout will leave him. We know he's the replacement. But yeah, I think Shea Charles obviously is the most at this moment. Obviously, he's the one pursuing at this moment. It'd be interesting to see, actually, with this. Obviously, we know we've got the deadline of the 30th of June. It'd be interesting to see if Leeds United can have enough room, capital-wise, to spend more in the market before the 30th of June. I would imagine not, but if they do, that could be a massive selling point for Southampton, who could be trying to compete and trying to get over the PSR, which it would be this season, ramifications this season. Like, remember we sold Harry Gray, or Archie Gresham, I said, on the final day of in June 30th. Of course, he ended up going to Spurs, and that basically stopped Leeds United breaching PSR. Now, I know someone will say in the chat it's SCR, it's still PSR until the 30th of June, if that makes sense. So it'd be interesting to see if Leeds United can go early on this deal. Max says, evening, Scott, nice to see you in the chat, mate. Day says, Charles will be a class signing. He's versatile, young, and he's homegrown, no-brainer. Yeah, I think a lot of it around Shea Charles makes a lot of sense. As I said, I'm still going to be on this because this is my opinion on it with the Shea Charles thing. I still don't think it's the priority, but obviously we don't know, and I don't know what's going on in the background. So Tanaka might be leaving the football club. Longstaff might be leaving the football club. If one of them leaves, then Shea Charles would become a priority. But with our current roster of midfielders that we have at this moment in time, it's not a priority, is it? We've got more important positions to improve. Like we've got, I think, as I said, we've got wingers to improve on. We've got sort of the goalkeeping situation to sort out. We've got the striker situation where we are going to need another striker this summer as well to sort out. So that won't make any sense for Shea Charles, but it only... that's the only thing that's slightly concerning, but it's never been about the player. I really like the player, 6'2", strong. As I said, I like the fact you've seen that significant improvement year on year with Shea Charles. Like, yeah, obviously he was having a bit of a rough time of it at Southampton, got loaned out to Sheffield Wednesday, was brilliant at Sheffield Wednesday. They absolutely loved him. I think he won player of the season at Sheffield Wednesday. Then, of course, he's gone back to Southampton with been in the Championship and been much better and been really, really good this season. And I've actually heard a lot of people saying, who are not like Southampton fans nor Middlesbrough fans, just Championship fans who watch a lot of it, actually suggest that he could be even better than Hayden Hackney, who I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of course, and had a fantastic season and won Player of the Season in the Championship. And people are saying that actually Shea Charles might be better than that. So yeah, very excited with Shea Charles. It is. And signings are always exciting, aren't they, fundamentally? Gruev has to be sold, says Rory. See, the only thing with Gruev, and I've seen, and obviously that will be what I would imagine the fans would like a Shea Charles swap for Gruev is unbelievable business, isn't it, really? The issue is, mate, is that I don't think, if I'm honest, that we could do that trade. And the reason I say that is, Ilya Gruev's market value is probably something in the region of £3 to £5 million in this market. You probably end up going to be paying about 25 million for Shea Charles. So you've got quite a big sort of difference in terms of value. Obviously, the two players, about 20 million quid. Whereas if you sold someone like Tanaka, you might get 15 million quid for. You sold someone like Longstaff, you might get 15 million quid now. Now, of course, there's different situations in terms of how the SCR model would work with them two individuals. Tanaka obviously would be much easier to sell than Longstaff, with Longstaff coming in last season, and his obviously book value being a lot higher than obviously Tanaka's. But what I mean by that is that I don't think we can afford to do that in our current climate with the money we've got. I don't think we can afford to do a Gruev sale for a Shea Charles, if I'm honest. So I don't really think that, if I'm honest. Will 1,000% not get Brandt? He will go to a club in Europe. I'm not sure about that, mate. I'm really not sure about that. I've seen a lot mentioned, as I said, and we talked about this today about Julian Brandt and about the fact that obviously there's this interest in him from Europe, and that is the situation. But in the same breath, Darts, sometimes the Champions League interest that was interested in, obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was Turkish interest. I would argue we're a better proposition than maybe the likes of a Fenerbahce in Turkey or Besiktas, someone like that. I think Leeds United are probably more attractive than them two clubs. So just because they've got Champions League interest doesn't always mean that it's really good Championship interest. Nakamura would be a good signing. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. I've actually seen a few people saying that, John. Shea Charles is not worth 20 million, unproven. At Premier League level, 15 to 12 million with possible add-ons. See, Michael, we've already bidded, mate, 20 plus add-ons. So, and I don't think you're right on this, mate, if I'm honest. That's my opinion. Obviously, you have your opinion, but I don't think that's the case. I think we always think that players are going to be cheaper, and this can't be the case. If you're saying he's not worth 20 million because he's unproven in the Premier League, well, if Shea Charles had played, say Shea Charles comes to Leeds United this summer and does well in the Premier League this season, we will value him, by the way, as Leeds fans at 40 to 50 million pound. That's how much we'd probably be looking at, because that's how much we'd have been looking at for other players in the team who've come in this season and done really well in the Premier League. So let's be honest here. At 22 years old, Shea Charles, with the season he's just had in the Championship, he is worth that. He is worth sort of 20, 25 million quid. That's what the market rate is. We don't dictate the market rate. But in the football world, that's how much these players cost. You're not going to get a player like Shea Charles for 12 to 15 million quid. It just ain't going to happen. Think City have a selling clause? Well, there you are. If they've got a selling clause, it's even harder, obviously, with that as well. Scott, I agree we wouldn't need to lose one or two. I agree that we would need to lose one or two in central midfield. Gruev, in my opinion, if Charles comes in. I wouldn't want to see Longstaff or Tanaka deep in the deep line CDM role. Yeah, true. But as I said, even with Gruev, mate, as I said, I just don't see that being the straight swap. I really don't. Our Football Insider and Team Top reliable, because I saw one of them say that we were distant runners for Brandt. They get stuff right and they get stuff wrong, mate. They're not tier one. Robson Glass is evening, mate. Nice to see you in the chat, mate. Hope you're having a good time. Would Suzuki be a backup or first team? Definitely first team, mate, if we brought him in. Remember Tierney Barry? We stayed out of that one when the valuation went too high. I bet Everton are having buyer's remorse. Probably, mate. Yeah, probably. He's not hit the ground running, has he? I wasn't sure we were interested in Barry last summer. Maybe we were. Just 9 more days till we know which clubs Wilson, Brandt, Strauch and Darlow are. Wilson, Brandt and Strauch, Wilson, Brandt and Darlow, definitely, mate. I think obviously by the 30th of June we'll have the outcomes of all them 3 players. Strauch's different though, because Strauch's got a year left in his contract, so that isn't the case with him. But the rest of them, yeah. Leeds need to get their business done early. See, I agree with this. I'll read the rest of the comment first. While their Premier League rivals, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Ipswich, are yet to get their new managers through the door. I agree with this, Michael, but everyone wants to get the business done early. Like, I was listening to Jamie Carragher talk about this a few weeks ago, and I think some Liverpool fans said Liverpool need to do their business quick, and he went, "Yeah, that's what every club wants. Every club wants to do business in the first week of the transfer window, get them all in, get them prepped for pre-season. Everybody wants that. That's the best case scenario, but it's not always achievable, that, because different deals become available later in the transfer window that are not available at the start. Like, for example, say Openda. Openda is an example. He obviously is a player Leeds United apparently have looked at from quite a few reports now. If Leeds United want Openda right now, Juventus might say 35 million quid. And Leeds might go, well, we're not paying that. But later on in the transfer window, if they really, really want rid of Openda, Juventus, they might go, fine, we'll do a loan with an obligation to buy. We'll do that then to get rid of him. But they wouldn't have done that at the start because they want to see what interest's there. So it's not always possible to do all your business up front. That's an ideal scenario, but it doesn't always, that situation doesn't always sort of come to fruition naturally. Jack says, evening Scott, marched on together. Nice to see you in the chat, mate. Farke rates Gruev above Tanaka. Tanaka wants more football, but only got it due to Gruev getting injured. Signs are for a DM. Tanaka will go. I do think, mate, if you're looking at a player profile in terms of what Shea Charles is and who is most like Shea Charles probably in our 11 at this moment, it is Tanaka. I agree with you on that. In terms of a profile, like Shea Charles, some of his best attributes are ball progression. And if you look at Tanaka, that's what he is as well. And also, if you look at Tanaka as well, I don't think he's quite had as good of a season as we all thought he would. Like, I think when we got promoted, remember last season, Ampadu and Tanaka were brilliant in there for a lot of it. And obviously, Ampadu a lot of time played centre-back. But I think we thought Tanaka was going to sort of come into the Premier League and take like a duck to water. It hasn't really worked like that, has it? Now, he's had good games, he's had bad games, but I don't think he's not had the season like Ampadu's had an unbelievable season in the Premier League. He's not had a season like that, Tanaka, and he's getting no younger now as well. So he's got 2 years his contract as well. So if you wanted to cash in on Tanaka, probably this summer wouldn't be a bad time to do it. And obviously, as well, as you know, Tanaka is a player that wants to play football. He was going to move in January because of the game time he was getting at Leeds. So maybe he brings Shea Charles in and maybe Tanaka looks at it, talks to the manager, Daniel Farke, as well, and goes, what's my game time looking at? And then he basically goes, well, Shea Charles might play above you now. And then Tanaka puts a transfer request in. Like, stuff like this can happen, for sure. Tanaka had a cracking game, so another couple of performances like that will get his stock high. Definitely, mate. Definitely. Who else is interested in Brandt except for us? I'm not sure, Darts, but there's apparently Champions League interest, so I'm not sure. Gruev is valued at 12 million euros on transfer market. Guess the team in the Bundesliga could buy him. He's got 1 year for his contract, mate, and he's also injured at this moment in time. We are not getting 12 million euros for Gruev with 1 year left in his deal. Because even if transfer market don't usually put in, I don't believe, they don't sort of take into account the fact he's got 1 year left in his deal. Honestly, Gruev, you're talking 5 million quid, mate, max. You're not getting 12 million for Gruev. This is what I mean about like price points. I've got someone in the chat telling me that Gruev might go for potentially could go for 12 million euros, and somebody else saying that they won't pay more than 15 for Shea Charles. Like, this is where we're slightly off here, I think, people, to be fair. Thought Tanaka's positioning was poor today. At some points, he was playing behind the 2 Japanese centre-backs, wasn't tracking players, good in a tackle, but positioning is questionable. To be honest, I didn't watch Japan, so I can't really speak on it too much, but I'd heard he played well. I had heard he played well. Shea Charles is a different profile player to Gruev. He is a different profile. I think he can do a lot of what Gruev does, though. Like, he can win the ball. He's a ball winner. I don't think he's probably as much of a ball winner as Gruev is, but he's also miles better on the ball than Gruev. Miles better. If we get Wilson or Brandt, we will 1000% stay in the division, and we'll get both around 50% off of getting top 10. I don't think it's that simple, mate, if I'm honest. If Longstaff stays fit, he will tear up next year. He was our talisman early doors before getting injured. He's severely underrated. Yeah, I don't mind Longstaff, mate. The only thing I always think with Longstaff is he is technically limited. Like, that is the situation. Although I would say what he probably lacks sometimes in in technical quality. I think he makes up for on other sides of the game. Like, I think his physical stature is fantastic. He's 6'1" in there. His running power is fantastic. He's a really good presser. He's a good ball winner. He's good at the physical side of the game. Really good at that, Sean Longstaff. He just lacks a bit in terms of technical quality when you look at others in the team. Like when you look at Stack's quality and you look at Ampadu's quality on the ball, I think they are levels on Longstaff in my opinion. But that doesn't mean Longstaff hasn't got a function in the team. He has. But it's also, you've got to bear in mind with Longstaff as well, it's all good as wanting to keep him. But again, does Longstaff look at this situation at this moment and go, you're looking at Shea Charles, I didn't really play much last season, I left Newcastle to join Leeds United to get more first team football in the first place anyway. Does he look at that and go, I'm not getting the football I want, and I want to move because of that? It's the reason I moved from Newcastle to Leeds to play football. I'm still not getting football, and maybe he picks another club. I don't know. Evening Scott, I've looked at our squad and I think we can raise 40 to 50 million on fringe players. Perot 10 million, Tanaka 15, Nonto 15, Longstaff 10, Cresswell sell on 4 million, Bornout 5, Schmidt 2. Yeah, I think they're fairly realistic price points, mate. I think few of them will be slightly overpriced. Don't think you get 15 for Nonto. Don't think you get 15 for Tanaka. Not sure you get 10 million for Perot, but I think you might get a bit more for Longstaff. So, yeah, I think we're in and around the same vicinity, mate. So, I think you're right. I do think you're right. Nonto has a sell-on clause. He does. That's one thing to mention with him. That is one thing to mention. A Gruev/Charles swap wouldn't be a big SCR impact this year. Gruev's book value is about 1 million. If we say selling for 6 million, that's 5 million SCR profit. Not true, actually, because essentially the way now profit works, mate, in terms of SCR, is that it splits over 3 years. So you're right with PSR in terms of we'd have got that 5 million book value, that 5 million fee straight up front with the difference in book value to sign on. It's not the same with SCR now. So it splits over 3 years. You'd be getting what? Was it 1.3 million per year? So not, yeah, no, 1.66 recurring million a year. So yeah, not quite. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you, Koba. I hope you're enjoying New Zealand. Yeah, I think so. By saving himself, Crook has just confirmed the bid for clarification. Yeah, well, there you are. Alex Crook said it as well. Then this bid has obviously gone in. I do think, as I said, we are edging closer now to Shea Charles becoming a Leeds United footballer. I think that we've work to do because, as I said, Southampton are not particularly easy negotiators, and no club should be, for the record. But they'd usually take a while over deals. It took a long time, as I said, with Mateus Fernandes and the likes of, obviously, Tyler Diblin last summer. They were long deals to do. I hope it isn't a long drawn out process, because I want to start, if we get this deal in quickly and we can start focusing on other deals, ideally. But I do think also, in the same breath, though, you don't just want to pay what they want, because they do charge ridiculous fees and it will come down. So you just got to sort of judge it, really. But you would expect, as I said, that Leeds United have done the homework on this deal, and if they are willing to pay sort of £20 million for Shea Charles, with add-ons, they'll have already done the homework on the player. They'll have already probably accepted that Shea Charles wants to join Leeds United. There's probably also a situation with that where we're in and around the price point. So I think this deal probably happens outside of the fact if it gets hijacked, which could happen. It's just a fan's perspective, because West Ham, Leicester and Saints have already traded 2+ players. I'm not fully sure what you mean, Matt. 20 million to sit on the bench. See, this is interesting, Andrew, because from when you look at it now, you think that could be the situation. But in the same breath, Andrew, you also look at it and go, are Leeds United going to spend £20 million on a bench player? I don't know. I don't know. That is what's slightly strange about it, if I'm honest. That is what's slightly strange. We need to move Longstaff on, says Darts. I don't know. I don't mind Longstaff. I think he's kind of overhated at times, to be honest. But he is technically limited, like we said earlier in the chat. Another way to consider Charles is that the 49ers always have a plan B as a professional company. If Leeds got relegated, Charles is the kind of player we should keep, unlike Ampadu and Stack. Yeah, well, yeah, potentially. I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're buying Charles worrying that we could get relegated and he'd be someone that stayed to help us get promoted. I don't think we're doing that. I think they see Shea Charles as a player who's 22 years old and he's ready now to make that step into the Premier League. And if he makes it to the Premier League and does really well, obviously his inflation then and his price point will go through the roof. He'll be 23 years old next summer, of course. And then, of course, if he's had a good season in the Premier League at 23 years old, that's a player then that's worth 50, 60, maybe even more £1 million. Which obviously would be huge for Leeds United, because one thing we have talked about this summer in general is that we have got quite an older squad. I think we've got one of the oldest squads in the league at this moment. So we probably do need to try bring that age, that sort of average age of the squad down, just to keep making sure we don't get into a situation where we've got a really aging squad and it gets too old and we don't make any money and it becomes a bit of a problem. So we've always talked about last summer was brilliant in terms of what they did when you look at the ages that they selected. But this summer, do we need to look at that? As I said, try not sign loads of young players. We don't need to do that. But can we throw in like a 22-year-old in there, maybe a 21-year-old, and then just carry on with the sort of older profile as well? I don't know. Joe, nice to see in the chat, mate. Says, issue for Southampton is they don't have long. They can't really extend it beyond the 30th because the financial year ends and they really badly need income by the deadline. See, this is what I mean about Joe. This is what I mean, Joe, is that this is a deal that could get wrapped up quickly if that's the situation with Southampton. If Southampton need to raise money before the 30th of June, then it's going to be wrapped up by the 30th of June, isn't it? I just didn't know, Joe, and I don't think a lot of us do really in terms of Leeds United finances. Do Leeds United right now, can Leeds United right now on this year's financial books put that money down? Can Leeds United afford this financial year to pay £25 million for a player? We just don't know that, mate. We just don't know that. Think Southampton want 25 million because City have a sell-on clause? Yeah, I think you. Well, they're obviously going to turn down. I think this 20 million plus add-ons bid. You don't usually ever get it for the first bid, do you? And if you do, you probably pay too much. If I'm honest, so I wouldn't expect this deal gets done now. But you'd expect maybe a second bid, maybe a third bid goes in, and we do get this deal over the line. Like, do you remember Longstaff last year at Newcastle, where I think we put 3 or 4 bids in before we actually got him? You're probably expecting something similar with this deal, I would expect. But like Joe said, if Southampton need to raise cash by the 30th of June, then you might get this deal for cheaper. Is Charles at the level Joe Bellingham was when he moved to Dortmund? Is it level Joe? They're slightly different players, mate. They are slightly different. I think Bellingham's more of like a runner, and he's someone who can sort of dribble with the ball quite well. I don't see Shea Charles with that. I think Shea Charles is more of a ball progressor. He's someone that's going to take the ball off the back four and dictate play. And he's got a really, really high technical level. But he also, as I said, he's 6'2". He has got that sort of physical ability as well. But he's not quite the same as Joe Bellingham, to be honest. Sidebar, what stats has the supercomputer got to have us finishing 17th next season? To be honest with Koba, I don't know which supercomputer you are talking about, mate. I think them supercomputers are the biggest load of tosh I think I've ever seen. I've never listened to them. I think they're tosh, if I'm honest. I think he'd have to be a starter at the price point we're paying. I think he'd have to be a starter. Anyway, let's move on from obviously Shea Charles. We can come back to it, but I do want to talk about this Harry Wilson thing because essentially Football Insider said yesterday in the evening that essentially Leeds United have tabled a offer to Harry Wilson. Now, I think there's probably a bit of guesswork here from Team Talk and the Football Insider who've both stated this, that we've put an offer down for Harry Wilson. Although, having said that, I do believe, to be fair, that Leeds United probably have done. I do think that Leeds United probably have tabled a bid for Harry Wilson, and I do think he's a player that obviously Leeds United want. We know that. And it's just to be about a situation where we've talked about with this over and over again. I think by this time next week, we'll definitely have a verdict on Harry Wilson. I think he'll either be a Leeds United player, probably a Fulham player, or a Villa player. I think it'll be one of them 3. And I think we'll probably find out quite quickly regarding that. So I think that's the situation with Harry Wilson. But apparently today, according to Football Guru and a few sort of insiders, ITKs on Twitter, essentially they're saying that Leeds United, that sort of Harry Wilson's been spotted at Leeds Bradford Airport. Now, as I said, take that with a pinch of salt, do what you guys want to do with it. But that has been said. Andrew says never trust Team Talk. Yeah, no, it's not about me trusting Team Talk, mate. I agree with you on that. You never know with Team Talk, do you, categorically? The reason I say it is because I think this probably is true. We know Leeds want Harry Wilson anyway, so let's be honest, there's probably a chance that we've offered him a deal, isn't there, really? Smash a like and subscribe and hype after the stream. Yeah, if you could listen to Darts people and you could smash a like and subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. And also, if you're watching after the fact, it's usually have to be quite a long time after the fact, maybe like 10, 12 hours afterwards. The stream does become like a video then. And then, of course, if you could hype that sort of, it really helps me out, people. So if you could do that, it'd be fantastic. And as I said, I am closing in now, sort of, or getting towards 2,800 subscribers. So if you're watching for the first time and you like this sort of content, we do it every single day. I think I'm the only Leeds content creator
creator to do a transfer news video every day. So if you like this sort of content, and you could sort of drop a subscribe, and then you sort of know when I'm going live as well, if you turn the notification bell on. So yeah, if you could do that, people, that'd be wonderful. And as I said, if you could like the video too, it boosts it in the algorithm, lets other people see it. It's fantastic. Shea Charles can also play right back and centre back. Yeah, I don't think he's physical enough, mate, to play centre back in the Premier League. I know he's 6'2", but he's not a massively imposing figure in the middle. So I know he's played centre back at times, but I don't really see him in that role. I think, if I'm honest, he would be coming in as a standard, basically, older midfield player, or at number 8. Wolves want 35 million plus for Krejci. Madness, given how they bought it for 27. But Wolves aren't in trouble financially for at least 12 months due to sales they've already made. Could be a difficult deal for us. Yeah, look, they obviously bought Krejci for 27 million, as you said, this summer, because obviously the obligation that they had based on how many games that Krejci played this season. So yeah, that is true, mate. All I'll say with that, regarding that, is that I think Leeds United, from all accounts, I think they're quite confident about getting Krejci if Stroud does leave. So, you know, we've projected ourselves to come 17th in the table, and we have base budgets on that. 14th is 9 million higher. If we consider amortization across a contract, we're likely in a position to have the cash. That's a really good point, Joe, actually. That is a really, really good point. You're probably right. We probably sort of planned for Leeds United finishing 17th, and you're right, we'll probably have that extra budget. That's a cracking comment. That's comment of the day, actually, because that's a comment I didn't even consider. But yeah, basically Joe's saying, if people don't understand it, that Leeds United at the start of the season, or even in January, would have planned that they're probably going to finish 17th. Whereas obviously we finished 14th, and if you finish 14th in comparison to 17th, you get extra 9 million. So potentially this financial year, Leeds have 9 million extra cash, which obviously they could spend before the 30th of June, because obviously the reward money for finish higher in the Premier League. Yeah, it's a fantastic comment, Joe. You'd probably bang on, mate. I don't know why I hadn't considered that, but yeah, bang on. If Wilson comes in, is it the end for Dan James? I don't think it is, mate, because there's slightly different players out there. Harry Wilson's more of a creator. He's more of a technical player. Dan James, that player with blistering pace, who I think you're playing a certain game where maybe they're playing with fullbacks that play really high up and you want that pace in behind. Dan James can still be an option for Leeds United, and maybe in particular games, Dan James might be a better option than Harry Wilson. Like, if we're going to Anfield next season and sort of... you would imagine Iriola sets up with Kirkes flying up down the left-hand side, then actually maybe playing someone like Dan James to get in behind with his pace, and also that offer that better probably defensive work than Harry Wilson, might be a better selection choice. But then, of course, if you're playing Coventry at home and you want a winger who's going to be where Coventry might be sat in a low block, and you want someone who's more technical to break the game up, someone like a Harry Wilson then to sort of open it up would be obviously a much better choice. So it just depends. Dan James is not that guy. He's a different, as I said, the different sort of players. I'm glad Czech don't have strong front, as Krejci would end up costing a lot more after his role in this World Cup. Yeah, it's probably a good point. Apparently he's had quite a good time of it, hasn't he? I watched one of their games. I can't remember which he was against now, but I watched Czech, and he did look like one of our better players. Look, man, some of us tried to post daily, but babies are hard. Fair enough, Joe. Yeah, well, I'm lucky, mate. I am sort of... I don't even have a girlfriend at the moment, so, you know, time is well of the essence for you, boy. But, yeah. We need to stop being avoid relegation, instead target mid-table. We don't want to regress. We want to go further. We do, Darts, but you've got to remember, mate, that we were in this situation a few years ago. Always remember it, I'm sure, where we finished 9th under Bielsa. I had people telling me we were going to finish in the top 5, top 6. I had all that sort of telling me. And then we ended up nearly getting relegated the season after. And let's be honest, we got pretty lucky with Rafinha bailing us out on the final day. Now, we probably deserved it in the end. I think we probably were better than Burnley over the season, and that was obviously rewarded finishing higher. Yeah, I think that goes say. By the way, but regarding the comment I made about I do it every day, that wasn't a dig at anybody else. I know the channels obviously work really hard as well, and I've got fantastic content in the space. I just don't think anyone in the Leeds space, if I'm right, does a Leeds United stream about transfers every day. I wasn't trying to throw any shots. So yeah. Also, as well, I don't know if people have seen this, but essentially we've been linked to a left back called Zaidu Sanusi, who plays for Porto. Now, I don't know how much he's in this, if I'm honest with you, but it has been linked again today. He's a 29-year-old Nigerian left back. He's got 32 caps, I believe, for Nigeria. And apparently, a few of the sort of sources are saying that he could be a player that Leeds United look at this summer. Now, we've always talked to the left back. I think left back's something we've sort of been quite avoidant on for a lot of what the transfer talk of the last few days. But someone made a comment the other day, and I've mentioned this a few times about sort of how the left back will look for Leeds United this summer. The left back's a really hard position to recruit this summer. You could argue maybe one of the hardest positions to recruit, not because left back's an unbelievably hard position to recruit in general. It's because we have a starter who's going to start every game next season, you would expect. Gabriel Goodmanson is going to be Leeds United's left wing back next season, or left back, hopefully left wing back if we continue with the 5 back. And because he's had a fantastic season last season. So we're looking for someone who basically is coming in knowing they're going to be a backup. Now, that is a tricky position to recruit. It's really tricky, that, because people want the chance, obviously, going to finish in the first team, and we can't really offer them that. We're going to have to offer them as a backup option. Now, of course, if the player comes in and does really, really well, then they might get more game time. But to start with, they're probably not going to. And it just makes the position really hard to recruit. So I've always said with the left back, said this quite a few times, you've either got to go, in my opinion, for like a senior veteran who's played in this sort of, played in the league for years, but now can't play up every single week. And obviously, therefore, happy being a senior statesman and being sort of in and out of the team. Or you want to go for a younger profile of player who's a player that naturally is just happy to play in the Premier League and happy to get minutes and improve his game when they're available, really. Did James and Wilson not play the same team at Fulham when Dan was there on loan? I don't think Dan James played much, mate, when he went on loan there. I remember him scoring actually against Man United, but if you look back, I'm pretty sure he hardly played. Hi, mate. Who would you like to see come in? Well, I mean, quite a lot of players, mate, if I'm honest. I tell you what, of all the top 4, who would... if there's 120 of you watching in the live chat now, of all the top 4 right now, so say Charles, Brandt, Wilson, Krejci, who would you want the most out of them 4? For me, I would probably say... I don't know. I'm between Wilson and Brandt, I've got to be honest. I'd probably say Harry Wilson out of them 3. I'd probably say Harry Wilson out of them 4, shall I say. What is happening with Justin? If we're interested in left back and also interested in a Mönchengladbach centre back, does he fit in? Yeah, I think Justin will be fine. Gabby's been supernatural. He fed Isak so much in the past 2 games. Isak not that strong at holding the ball up. I watched Sweden last night get absolutely pumped by the Dutch 5-1. And nobody played well, especially the back line for Sweden. Now, I don't think it was particularly Gabriel Goodmanson's fault from what I watched. To be honest, I wasn't really looking out for Goodmanson. I was just watching the game, having a few beers. So I can't comment loads on it because I wasn't paying loads of attention, but it was on. But yeah, I mean, conceding 5 goals is probably not a good start, if you're honest. Brandt. So Brandt's the one that people want. Right, okay, fair enough. Yeah. The only reason I say Wilson over Brandt, one, he's obviously 1 year younger. Now, of course, Brandt's fantastic in terms of, I think he fits the profile like a glove. He's 6'1". He's got that physical side. Also, as I said, he replaces Brendan Aronson in the team, which I think a lot of us would like to see Brendan Aronson probably not playing the team every single week next season. But for me, Wilson, I think's a better option. Number one, because he's just come off a fantastic season in the Premier League already, which obviously is a huge benefit. He got 17 goal contributions. He's proved he can do it at this level before. So that's one for me for sure. And that's probably the deciding factor, if I'm honest, it's shown he can do it at this level. Like, it's all good playing in the Bundesliga, and the Bundesliga, I think, is quite a good league to recruit from because it is a very fast league like the Premier League. There's not as much quality in there, of course, as it is in the Premier League. The Premier League's the best stand in the world, and you see that because our middle teams batter the rest of the competition. Hence, we won the Conference League and the Europa League this season. But as I said, but the Bundesliga is not a bad place to recruit from, in fairness. But I'd still probably edge it Wilson. Yeah. Charles number 1 says Rory. Not for me, mate, if I'm honest. He'd probably be 3rd for me. I'd go Brandt 2nd. Cobra says, let's get this video liked. Yeah, if you could do that, people, that would be absolutely fantastic. I never see, actually, how many likes it's got. People usually tell me in the chat that I've got, like, 130 live or whatever, and I've only got like 40 likes. So if you could sort of, if you are watching live, if you could smash a like on the video, it's massively helpful to me. Do you think Gruev goes, says Dale? Do I think Gruev goes? I don't probably think he goes, no. I don't think he does, because he's injured, mate. He's injured. Wilson for me, Mucker. Fair enough, mate. Charles, to be honest, with Justin, either play or back up to him and have Bogle move up to help James. Yeah, well, Bogle's obviously, I think Bogle's obviously going to stick to that sort of right wing back role, mate. But yeah. Show Scott love, like this video. Thank you, Koba. I do appreciate it, mate. You're like my cheerleader in the chat today, which I massively appreciate. And you've also been a very loyal watcher for a long time now. When did you start watching? You must have been watching for since easily January. 24. That's what I mean. So 24 likes, people, and 130 in the live chat. I mean, come on, help a boy out. You know what I'm saying? Brandt has Champions League level experience. He does. He does have Champions League level experience, but I still. As I said, for me, personal preference, I probably still will go Wilson. Oh, now up to 58. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. I like Gabby, but I feel he can be found out by a better team as he relies mainly on pace. Think there is room for another 10 million player to compete against him. That's true, Effortless. I think that's fair. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said there. It's convincing this 10 million pound player that that's the situation. That's the tricky bit, I think. And the other thing to mention is we're obviously working with a limited budget at this moment in time. We don't have an unlimited budget, as you guys all know. So do you want to spend £10 million on a left back when you could potentially get someone like, I don't know, it's going to sound boring, but someone like Matt Target for free? I don't know. 63 likes now. Wow, thank you very much. Nice little boost there. Thank you very much. Mine's a 63. Thank you very much, people. So that's kind of, yeah, that's the left back situation in terms of, do you actually even if you could get someone who's maybe 10, 15, 20 million pounds, would you want to go into the market and spend that anyway? I don't know. That would be something that the board have to decide on. I don't think they will, though. If you want my honest opinion, what the football club will do, I think they're looking at a player 5 million and less, if I'm honest. In the left back situation. Anyway, any more to talk about? I think we're nearly through the show today, people. We've talked about Shea Charles, which I think is very likely. He's still a 4 out of 10, although probably more a 4.5 out of 10 now, if anything. He's up to, I think, about a 90% chance of him coming. But yeah, Gary does get found out for sure. He's a good bang for our pound right now, though, until we move to mid-table in 2 to 3 years. I think he can do. I think Goodmanson can be a player that plays for us for years, mate. I think if we're a mid-table team, Goodmanson is fine. I don't think we need to upgrade there at all, if I'm honest. What are your opinions on Suzuki as a keeper? In my opinion, he was my second option after Trafford. As I've always said, it's interesting with sort of Suzuki, because I've said for a while, he's been a player been linked to a lot of top clubs for a long period of time now. It's interesting with Suzuki. The only thing what I always say with goalkeepers, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but what I say with goalkeepers coming into the Premier League more than ever is we are in a situation right now in the Premier League where set pieces are as prevalent as they've ever been in the league. You need a keeper who is fantastic at dealing with set pieces. I watched Japan a bit, sort of, and I've seen some of the highlights, and I watched them against the Dutch, it was, and he looked like, to me, he struggled a bit from set pieces. That's not a sort of keeper I'd want to recruit. I want somebody who's dominant on set pieces, like a prime Nick Pope, ideally. Not Nick Pope now, and I know we've been linked to him, but not him. But I've always remembered Nick Pope is sort of been really good from set pieces, really powerful, really strong, and good at claiming crosses. That's what I'd be looking at as an absolute priority, because what teams do now in the Premier League, because of the rules of the Premier League and because of how referees officiate corners now, is they basically put the ball on the 6-yard box and pack it around the keeper and just try basically get a scrappy goal. That's kind of the way they do it. Arsenal are the perfect match of this. They literally just surround the goalkeeper, and either Rice or Saka, depending on which side it is, literally put it on their head. And make it unbelievably difficult. So you need a really tall, powerful, strong goalkeeper to be able to deal with that and to either punch it away or catch it, ideally. And that's the thing with Suzuki I'd be slightly concerned about, if I'm honest. So, yeah. Smash a like for Scott. This lad is a busy guy and he still finds time to keep us all updated. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much. Like you can imagine, people, I do work and do this. I've been watching you since you had about 400 subs in your bedroom 2 years ago, then got kicked off my account and didn't know you were called Leeds Lens and found you after the Man United game. There we are, mate. Hi, Scott. Enjoying the show, mate. Thank you very much, Nigel. Massively appreciate it, mate. Nice to see some different names in the chat. Obviously, we've got the usuals that, you guys are fantastic for the channel. Obviously, like I always say, the chat runs this channel, really. Like, we spend majority of the show, obviously, I discuss the news, but we talk for like 50 minutes a day to an hour about the news. If I just ran off the news of the day, it'd be like a 10-minute show. The whole point of this show is that we obviously get you guys engaged in the chat. And obviously what the benefit of being the size I am at the moment is I can basically get through every comment, but you guys make the show. You absolutely do. You're completely a part of the show. I basically pop up every single comment. So the guys who are here every day, fantastic. And obviously it's nice to see the likes of Nigel. I don't think I've seen you before in the chat, mate. I think Nemecha needs talking about. I'd give him another year. He's earned it. Says Rory. Yeah, the thing with Nemecha is interesting. He's obviously got 1 year left in his contract, hasn't he, this summer. So yeah, he's a player that probably a decision needs to make, because I said this with Darlow a few days ago, actually. I don't know if people remember this, but we really should have given Darlow a contract extension last summer, and then we wouldn't be in this position this year. But we didn't do it because we kind of got complacent, and we didn't probably expect that Darlow was going to have the season he did. And the only thing with Nemecha that slightly worries me, if we keep Nemecha this season and say he has another really good season in the Premier League, we'll lose him for free next summer, which seems a bit silly. Obviously, he might sign a new deal, but he might end up leaving for free. And do Leeds United need to protect ourselves and give him a little more, just another contract extension for a further year to make sure that doesn't happen? I think potentially we do. So, yeah, if I were Leeds, I probably would give him probably a 2-year deal, if I'm honest. I'd probably, obviously, yeah, he's got a year left, so you'd probably give him a 2-year deal. That's probably what I'd do with Nemecha, because I am conscious about his value, because what we don't want is, well, we would want it, but we don't want Nemecha scoring, say, 10 goals next season in the Premier League, and then he's a free transfer next summer. That would be a bit of a disaster, like you've seen with, obviously, sort of Wilson at Fulham at this moment. Gabby's had a few injuries, so we need a backup. We do 100% we need a backup. It's just what sort of backup we're looking for. We're looking for someone to sort of challenge him / replace him, or we're looking for someone just to be a backup. Don't know if I like any of the top 4, to be honest, for Sir Stephen. Fair enough, mate. It's truthful, I don't make the transfer rumours, but, you know. I actually quite like all of them, if I'm honest. Hi, Scott. What's the latest? The latest, mate, is that Leeds United have bidded for Shea Charles, 20 million plus add-ons. Leeds will go for Philip Jorgensen from Chelsea. I did see this link effortlessly the other day. I don't mind Jorgensen, but he did play, I think, at Aston Villa this year, if I remember, and was pretty bad. So, yeah. Anyway, I think, as I said, I'm coming to the end of the show now. I said that a few minutes ago, and then we ended up talking for another 10 minutes. But I think we're nearly there. We need to rotate Nemecha and Calvert-Lewin more. He might complement Wilson if we get him, or whoever we sign. He might complement his play style more. Yeah, I just think with Nemecha, we just, as a football club, we probably just need to protect ourselves there and obviously get sort of a deal sorted there. That's kind of all it is with Nemecha. It's not a big thing, and it's probably something that we'll have to wait and see on. But you might get a bid for Nemecha this summer, and you might move on this summer. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to leave the show there, everybody. Thank you all for watching. You're all legends. I massively appreciate it. The channel's growing really well at this moment. You guys seem to be really liking it at the moment, so I massively appreciate that. As I said, we do go live every single day for about between sort of 50 minutes an hour, talking about the latest Leeds United news. And at this moment, let's be honest, pretty much all transfer news, which I know obviously is the most interesting part of news for sure. But of course, naturally, I do work, so it depends on the time I can do per day. Sometimes it's in the afternoon, sometimes it's in the evening. Don't usually do the morning, but it depends on the time. So I always say, the best thing I can say is, if you want to watch these shows every day, or catch them, and you don't know when they're going to happen, because I don't know when they're going to happen, is subscribe and then turn your notification bell on, and then essentially you'll just get notified half an hour before the sort of the live goes out. And also, if you want another way of doing it, you can also follow me on Twitter. It's just at the Leeds Lens. It's exactly the same as my name, and I tweet out an hour before I go live. But I can't tell you exactly when I'm going to go live each day, because, as I said, surprisingly enough, this size of a channel doesn't pay the bills, as you can imagine. So yeah, I do work as well, of course, and that's where my income comes from, if I'm honest with you. So anyway, as I said, if you could like, subscribe, all that good stuff, does massive for the channel. And also, if you watch afterwards, if you could hype the video too, that would be splendid. But I will see you tomorrow. What time will be live tomorrow? As I said, I'm not fully sure. Probably I think probably an afternoon. I'm not actually, funny enough, I'm actually not working tomorrow, so I could do afternoon. Cheers all, fingers crossed, and nice to see us be linked to players. Exactly effortless. Anyway, thank you all for watching, as I said, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.